better. Feels cooler.
You're live.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Matt and LTV. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 8th, 2021 Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. We have a work session this evening. We're going to, and a full agenda as usual. We will get started first with two administrative applications. I'll read the first in, and then Tyler Borsak, our planner, is going to walk us through that one. The applicant here, this is regarding Isbicki at 2178 Montauk Highway, Unit 73 Amagansett, tax map number 300-110-1-13. The issue is to construct an outdoor shower, new stairs, AC enclosure.
Recording in progress.
Okay, we good, Matt?
It's okay. Keep going.
Okay. AC enclosures, glass doors, and windows within jurisdiction of freshwater wetlands. Tyler, good evening. And
Mr. Chair, I just want to say that I'll recuse, so I'll shut off my video.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Roy.
Sure.
Go ahead, Tyler, if you please.
Sure. So this is at the Driftwood condominiums, I suppose. The unit that we're interested in here is the very end of this property, and the wetlands are all along sort of the roadside. So the Montauk Highway is out to the north on this property, ocean on the south side. The wetlands to the north are this is within jurisdiction of. What they're proposing, and I'll bring up the building plans because they're a little bit more clear. But just to show you, they're about 105 feet away from the edge of those wetlands over an existing concrete structure. But let me pull up the plans, and this gives you a little bit better idea. So this is the corner of that building, and then the garage here. They're proposing a new set of stairs, an outdoor shower, and an AC enclosure, which are sort of underneath that same structure. And then they're also proposing to change some windows and doors out. So new door on the west side, and then some new doors on the east side of the building as well. Fairly straightforward, pretty minor. Stairs here, you can see the side profile of it to access the existing roof of the garage. AC enclosure and a shower underneath the stairs. And then some changing out of windows and doors. So nothing really major, all over existing improved areas. Fairly straightforward.
Okay. Thank you, Tyler. I don't know if board members have any comments. This is in my Amagansett district. I'm fine with this going forward administratively. Any comments, board members?
No.
No. Okay, I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and make a motion with regard to Isbicki at 2178 Montauk Highway, Unit 73 Amagansett, tax map number 300-110-1-13, that this go forward administratively.
Second.
I concur.
I concur.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move on to Clouser at 86 Northwest Landing Road in East Hampton, tax map number 300-90-1-19, to construct a 681 square foot addition to the residence with a 603.6 square foot porch, 261 square feet of decking, and clearing partially within NRSP jurisdiction, and to upgrade a sanitary system on a parcel of land within 150 feet of freshwater wetlands. And Eleni is going to help us out here. Good evening, Eleni.
Good evening, everyone. So this is the survey right here. So as you can see, this line right here is the 150-foot setback. So the improvements, it's in addition to the residence, and this deck here is really what's in jurisdiction for natural resources special permit jurisdiction. They are voluntarily upgrading their sanitary system. That is mitigation. They don't have to do it for this project. And the applicant is working on getting an updated survey showing that. They've submitted their sanitary plan that has been drawn up as well. That's right here. So same location for the sanitary system, sanitary upgrade. It's just not shown on the survey right now. They're also revegetating this small area that had been cleared that is kind of doesn't really have very much to do with their property. It seems like it was cleared accidentally. So they're going to revegetate that as well. If there are any questions?
Now, the sanitary it's waived for the variance? 150 feet?
It's an upgrade. So they don't need a variance to upgrade the sanitary.
Okay.
And this is in my East Hampton district, so I looked at this earlier and I feel comfortable with the mitigation in return for the improvements. How do the other board members feel?
I agree.
Just fine.
I think it's a great application myself.
I would agree.
Okay, so I'll make a motion then in the matter of Clauser, 86 Northwest Landing Road, East Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-90-1-19 to allow this application to go administratively.
Second.
I'll concur.
I'll concur.
And I concur as well. Okay, thank you, Tim. Thank you, Eleni. Okay, we'll move on now to post-hearing decisions. First, we have 62 Osborne Lane LLC. Lot size and location, 22,582 square feet at 62 Osborne Lane in East Hampton, tax map number 300-187-1-2. The description is an appeal of the building inspector's interpretation regarding 255-11-20A, separation of accessory structures, and 255-11-23, limitation on accessory buildings. The relief sought is an appeal of the chief building inspector pursuant to 255-8-30A1 of the town code. Applicants seek to challenge the building inspector interpretation dated 10/19/2020 that the pool house or accessory structure should be a standalone accessory building with a minimum of 5 feet separation to any other building. And if it contains a roof that connects the structures, the open air appendage will have 2 sides open that connect it. This is in a B residence zone. It's in a flood zone X, and the secret class here was type 2. And this is in board member Treneman's East Hampton district. Tim, if you'd lead us off, please.
Sure. Members, you'll recall we heard this appeal on March 2nd. And this is a seemingly small matter, which ends up being fairly complex. And so I am going to do my best to dissect this and unpack it. And unfortunately, it goes through, and I think we have to take a very close look at a number of different sections of our code to fully evaluate this. I'm going to make an attempt to go through all of that. There are a lot of issues. I'll hit the ones I think most important. I do think that this should be a full conversation among all of us. I do have an opinion on this, which I will render at the end, but I just want to tee this up by saying that there's a lot going on here, and appreciate full teamwork on this to fully unpack it.
Tim, I'll just say, take all the time you need. This is important. So please don't feel rushed, okay?
Thank you. So at issue is an accessory structure located at 62 Osborne Lane in East Hampton. And as mentioned, the property is owned by 62 Osborne Lane LLC. There was a building permit, number 67198. It was dated January 8th, 2019, issued to Hallisey Builders, Inc. And it indicated that the purpose was to legalize 190 square foot pool house per revised plan dated November 29th, 2018, in all applicable codes. The site plan, which was referenced, was submitted by DB Bennett, and it included sheets C-1 through C-4. And especially C-4 clearly shows a different and conforming configuration of the pool house structure. It shows 2 separate structures which would conform to the code. And it was this plan that the building department used to issue the building permit. The appellant changed the plan mid-project to the as-built accessory building which is illustrated on this survey and brings us to this appeal. The determination addresses questions related to detached accessory structures. This requires some unpacking. I'll attempt to address this systematically. The accessory structure, as mentioned in question, is a pool house. There are a number of questions and factors for us to consider, but we can all agree the starting point is that it involves a pool house. The pool house is separated from the principal structure, AKA the primary structure or the dwelling, by more than 5 feet. You can see it clearly on this survey. It is also attached to a larger attached and an enclosed on 3 sides porch or patio where the roof line and the basement is shared throughout the entire unit. The pool house or portion of the structure with running water is 100 square feet. The attached covered porch is 8 by 25 or 200 square feet. The total structure, if combined, is 300 square feet. The East Hampton Town Principal Building Inspector is Ann Glennon. I mention that because I may call her Ann somewhere along the line, but I want to make sure that I have her title properly here. But in her decision, she has cited 2 portions of the zoning code to support her decision, which the chair just referenced, and I'll mention it again here. And that's 255-1120 separation. Accessory building, including garages, if detached from the main building, shall not be less than 5 feet from the main building. And I'll come back to this a little bit later. She also references 255-1123, limitations on accessory buildings. No accessory building other than a pool house of less than 200 square feet in gross floor area shall contain any bath, shower, or plumbing facilities. And in her decision, she wrote, "It has been the interpretation of this office that an accessory structure based off of the above East Hampton Town zoning code sections, that the pool house or any accessory structure should be a standalone accessory building with a minimum of 5-foot separation to any other building. And if it contains a roof that connects 2 structures, then the open air appendage will have 2 of the sides open that connect it." We heard from the appellant's representative who argued that this is a pool house with an attached roof patio. Further, that the code is not clear and that any ambiguity in language must go to the appellant. To use a baseball analogy, a tie goes to the runner. The appellant argued that this is a 100 square foot pool house with an attached patio, and that nothing in the code prohibits a roofed structure. Now, I just want to address a couple of the definitions that are relevant in the code to this. The appellant cited 255-120, which is the definitions section, and specifically floor area, habitable or livable. And in that, it says the area in square feet of all floor levels of any dwelling unit measured from the inside of all walls. In calculating this figure, all porches, patios, garages, breezeways, terraces, and other attached or detached accessory buildings or structures shall be excluded. Further, it states there is nothing in the code that differentiates. He stated that there's nothing in the code that differentiated a 2 versus a 3-sided structure. The appellant's representative also cited 255-120, the definition of floor area gross, and specifically cited letter A for a habitable building, the cumulative area in square feet of every story of the building measured to the exterior face of the frame or masonry wall, but excluding cellars, attics, or spaces with ceilings of less than 5 feet. Stairwells and interior spaces with floor to ceiling height in excess of 15 feet shall be counted twice. Most importantly, the gross floor area of open air appendages, such as porches and screen patios, shall be calculated separately in a manner set forth in subsection C hereof, and shall not be included in the gross floor area of the habitable building. So those two definitions will end up, I believe, being very important, and I will be adding to those in a little bit. Again, in the building inspector's letter, there's references to two codes. With regard to the first code cited in the building inspector's letter relating to separation, accessory buildings, including garage, if detached from the main building, shall not be less than 5 feet from the main building. And I understand why the building inspector inserted this into her letter, because she's suggesting that 5 feet of separation between two accessory structures is sufficient to say the GFA would not be combined. And otherwise, physical separation between the two would mean they would be counted separately. But unfortunately, in my view, that's not supported by the code, which speaks specifically to a 5 foot separation requirement between a dwelling and an accessory building. The dwelling being the house in this case. Further, after some additional research, it does appear that the 5 foot separation is derived from the residential code of the New York State, and it relates to fire resistance ratings, where 5 feet was a fire safety and resistance demarcation. My point is that the 5 feet of separation is specific to the dwelling or main house and any accessory building, and it's not between two accessory buildings or two accessory structures. I don't think the language in the code can be interpreted this way, and on that point, I find on behalf of the appellant. This brings me to the second code, which is 255-1123. Limitations on accessory buildings. No accessory building other than a pool house of less than 200 square feet in gross floor area shall contain any bath, shower, or plumbing facilities. I think there are two key questions here. I think there are more, but there were two that I focused on. Is this structure a 100 square foot pool house with an attached porch, as suggested by the appellant, or is it, given its configuration, a 300 square foot accessory building? Secondly, is this building habitable? And I hope in my next comments to demonstrate that the two are tied together. If we go back to 255-120 under definitions and again visit the wording for floor area gross, which I just read, and most importantly, for a habitable building, the gross floor area of an open air appendages, such as porches and screen patios, shall be calculated separately. So for the key word there is that the building has to be habitable. Letter B of that same definition indicates that for buildings that are not habitable, the cumulative area in square feet of every story of the building measured to the outside of the exterior walls. So if this is a habitable building, then the open air appendage, like a porch or a screen patio, would be calculated separately. If this building is not habitable, then the entire building counts in square footage. The issue of habitable, it seems to me, is the key issue in all of this. It's a bit of a conundrum because I could not specifically find that word defined in the code. However, I think it's fair to say that the code calls out the limitations on accessory buildings, and specifically the 200 square foot limit on a pool house related to plumbing. It seems to me that it has been done so purposely so that an accessory structure less than 200 square feet is not habitable. In other words, I think it's clear by inference that the intent here is to allow some level of convenience in association with a pool, namely a small washroom-sized structure, but to stop well short of allowing a habitable building. In fact, we're clear the town does not want habitable accessory structures. We know that. In addition to that, common sense tells me that this is one structure. It has a continuous roof line above and a continuous basement below. The covered patio is surrounded by 3 sides. It looks like a single structure. And it's not all that different from a garage in that regard. And as a result, overall, on this part and overall, I find on behalf of the building inspector, and so I would be looking to deny this appeal as a result of that. Before I pass it on to my other board members, I do agree with the appellant that the code is somewhat confusing with regard to accessory structures. And while I think the intent is clear with regard to pool houses, the language is imperfect. And someone will surely attempt and perhaps eventually exploit this language. And this is something that the town should review and clean up. And on that topic, I have also found the 5 foot of separation interpretation to be confusing and bordering on arbitrary in some of our prior matters. It doesn't make any sense to me in regards to separating accessory structures, especially non-roof structures. We also have learned that in terms of fire protection, the state residential code has been updated to now reflect 10 feet of separation relating to fire resistance rating, which makes more sense in that regard. But I still have an issue with that same amount of separation applying to non-roof accessory structures. So with that, I will pass it to my fellow board members.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Tim, for that thorough analysis, much appreciated. Let's see, Vice Chair Deline, do you want to take a stab at this, Roy?
Yes, and I just want to compliment Member Brenneman for the precise unpacking of the issue that's before us. I agree with the first part of the 5 foot separation, that I think that it pertains to the main structure or the main building, and does not apply to accessory structures. When it comes down to the pool house / patio, I think I too look at it, and in my evaluation of this, I thought of, well, a 3-sided building is like a garage, and it came down to that too. You can put a roll down shutter on there. It's going to easily close it. I think it goes to the intent of the code, what the code intends to do, and it does not intend to have a building that can. So to me, it's the duck scenario. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, I do also, in short. I won't go because I think Tim did such a good job unpacking it. I do find for the building inspector.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Terry?
Yeah, I agonized over this immensely back and forth. Looking at, the definitions that Member Brenneman and Member Deline have stated. I was back and forth about the 5 foot separation on the accessory structures. And I kept, in Ann Glennon's letter, it sounded like, this was a practice that has gone on for a long time in the town. I don't know if that, in my mind, kind of makes it a de facto code or de facto standard. So I did end up thinking that this patio or this structure would have to have the 5 feet of separation. And I think that would have addressed, the size of the pool house. On the second matter of whether it's an open air appendage, I do agree with my colleagues that I found that is a structure. It is not an open air appendage because it really does not allow for airflow. It has, 3 sides, it's roofed. I think if the back had been open or even partially open, that would have been a different decision. So I do find for the building inspector on that matter. It looks like a single structure to me. And so now on the separation, it is kind of ambiguous. I am going to stand with the building inspector's letter. It's something that they've been doing for a long time, but I do think that the town board and the code should be looked at to tidy up a lot of the vocabulary discrepancies and better definitions in the code. But I'm going to stand with the building inspector on that, at least right this second.
I'm sorry, so you said you're siding with the building inspector, Terry,
On both parts. Right
on both
now.
parts? Okay, thank you.
Sure, and I'm not going to change on the second one.
Okay, thank you, Terry. Ed?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I also want to thank Member Brenneman for such a thorough
Yeah, good job.
unpacking and explanation of what we are faced with tonight. I think we all spent quite a bit of time on this. There was a lot to read, a lot to look into. Questions were raised by board members that were answered to some extent by council. We had an opportunity to go through the code and to consider the code. And I think that the explanation as it was presented by Member Brenneman was excellent. I do, however, slightly disagree in one area. I would like to start to say, though, that I don't believe that the enclosed or partially enclosed area is an open air appendage. And because it's not an open air appendage to me, and it makes it an additional part of the pool house, which makes it, as everyone else has already said, one structure. That's one structure well over the 200 feet that was previously described by Member Brenneman. It's allowed in a pool house. That, to me, led me right back to Inspector Glennon's letter. I found that after a good deal of time looking at this and trying to get to the bottom of the intent, the legislative intent in terms of the code, I did side with the building inspector's interpretation. I thought that according to 255-1120, as enclosed structure is required to be separated from any other structure by a minimum of 5 feet. I do think there's a gray area there. I do think the code needs to be cleaned up, but I'm satisfied that as was mentioned by Member Berger, that the building inspector has looked at this correctly, and I would side with her on that. And then additionally, as I've already said, I think that the fact that this 3-sided addition is a pool house is not an open air appendage. I think it is a porch. I think, as was mentioned by Vice Chair, it could easily be enclosed. It could easily become something that was not the intention. And lastly, I think that approval of this in this condition opens a door to lots of other potential applicants and where we're going with this. I think that if we can clean up the code, that we can get a better definition of exactly what we're dealing with under these circumstances, it would help. But given what we have to deal with right now, I'm going to side with the building inspector on both counts on this application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Okay, let's see, my take on this is that unfortunately, as much as there's so much gray area here, and we see so many of these accessory structures going on that are really stretching the limits. And I know, as you've all mentioned, that when you have this pool house with this roofed porch with the 2 sides on it, it could easily be, as Roy mentions, it could become like a garage. You could have a garage door. You could do sliding doors. You could do all sorts of things. But unfortunately, we can't, as a zoning board, hang our hats on what could be, what kind of non-compliance could occur or may occur in the future. And unfortunately, I am not going to side with the building inspector on this because unfortunately, I don't think she has anything to back, oh, no, I shouldn't say anything. There's just not enough there to back up the argument there. And I think the code, the town has to look at this. I believe they are looking at it. I hope that this board never has this kind of application or variance or appeal come before it again, because in the future, I hope the code will be crystal clear and this sort of thing will not be, I look forward to the code being changed, honestly. But right now, there is nothing in there that can really back up the arguments here, besides what may or may not happen. And I think it's also unfortunate that there's this full basement, which I brought up at the public hearing, that's under there. Unfortunately, that was permitted by the building inspectors and it was given a building permit. And I think that whole thing has to be looked at. I think that's almost as egregious as the porch, but I just, as much as, again, I don't want to see this sort of thing become a habit around town, although it already is. I think the urgency here is that the town attorneys work with the town board and completely clarify the code. There are so many specifics that I think really have to be put out in almost bullet points. What is an accessory structure? What is a porch? What's a covered porch? What's a trellis? How many sides can a covered porch have on it? And none of that is there. So unfortunately, I just can't feel that I could back it up with any argument in the code. So that's my take on this.
And if you might, Mr. Chairman, I might add, just from my comment, is that I think that this might be also an attempt to make a structure, from my perspective, defined as a patio when it's clearly a structure the way I see it. So I think, we have to be careful of a slippery slope that can happen as a result of what might happen on our decision here.
Yeah, I completely agree, Roy. I mean, it would be great if it was clarified in the code where it says, if you have a roof, you can only have one wall or you can only have 4 columns. But again, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. That's.
But there is. But I think there is a reasonable interpretation of what an open air appendage is, right? So, I mean, an open air appendage would be a screen porch or something that's completely open around all sides. And air can flow through it. This is, and I think the applicant used I didn't like this corollary, but he said the underwear approach. If you feel cold, but an accessory building doesn't need to have heat in it, so I don't know if that applied either. But anyway, that's my feeling.
Yeah.
And to Delene's point, I looked around on the internet looking at designs and everything, and anything that was open air, appendage, everything had 2 open sides, or it was unroofed, maybe with a lattice type roof. And I didn't find one that looked like this with 3 sides enclosed and roofed.
Yeah. Again, it's unfortunate. It's not there. It's not specified. That's what's unfortunate. I think it will be in the very near future, which would be great.
Now, for the 5 foot of separation, though, the fact that there's a state code. Tim, I'm sorry. Did you say that state code only applies to principal houses? Also,
Yes.
Yes.
And it's specific to fire. And it's now.
Oh, I know that.
10 feet, yeah.
But I would think that the town would have to follow the fire code rules, that the applicants would have to follow the state codes also.
Yeah. I think the applicant's argument here is that this is a pool house with an attached, covered porch. I think that's, and therefore, as we know in the code, porches and things like that, it's not called out that a porch needs separation from a pool house. And again, nothing's there in the code, or not enough, and I certainly look forward to it being there in the future.
Yeah, I'm going to stand by the building inspector.
Yeah, good. I'm not trying to persuade anyone.
Absolutely, on the second one.
Yeah.
If I could just see if I can, because I have to write this now.
Yeah, right.
So I believe that the conclusion of it, and I won't tell you I mean, I have all the notes here and I'll go back and watch this to get specifics that I missed. But the majority of the board finds that the code does not require a 5-foot separation between accessory structures. And a majority of the board finds that the applicant's structure, pool house structure, is greater than 300 square feet and it violates the 200 square foot limitation. Is that an accurate conclusion of everyone's comments?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
my conclusion, yes.
Yes,
Okay,
but it's greater than 200 square feet.
Right.
right, it's greater than 200 square
And
feet
it's not an open air porch.
because it's.
But it's not an open air porch.
Right. Okay, so I will get there, how you got to it being greater than the 200 square feet. Because you the majority of the board did not discount it as an open air appendage because of it. But if that's our conclusion, I think I have what I need to write your determination, unless there's anything more somebody wants to add.
Nope.
Good?
No.
No, good? Okay. All right, thank you, Nancy Lynn. Okay, we'll move on next. We have, excuse me, we have Alan and Nancy Charovsky. I'll read this in. The lot size and location. Oh, by the way, this goes back to, the next three, I think, go back to our March 2nd, 2021 public hearing, when this was heard. The lot size and location, 21,729 square feet at 63 Meeting House Lane in Amagansett, tax map number 300-171-5-18, to allow the pool equipment to remain within rear yard setbacks. Relief sought here is one variance of 4 feet from 255-11-10 of the Town Code dimensional regulations to allow the pool equipment to remain 16 feet from the rear yard northeast lot line where 20 feet is required and any other relief necessary. This is in a B resident zone, flood zone is X, and secret class is type 2. And we have the survey up on the screen, I see. And I just wanted to say, so this is in my Amagansett district. And I am okay with approving this for the reasons that when you look at, from my site visit and from the public hearing, you may recall, there is extensive screening on all 3 sides. You couldn't get much better than the hedgerow and the trees that they have, especially on the northeast side. There's hedges and trees. And as well, on both sides of the subject pool equipment, there happens to be pools on both properties to adjacent sides, pools and pool equipment right there. So you basically have 3 pools next side by side here. All 3 houses are up on Meeting House Lane, up on the street. Actually, all the houses, most of the houses on that street are right up close. So with regard to the noise and the neighbors and this changing the character of the neighborhood, I really don't think that is the case. And for these reasons, I'm okay approving this this variance. Terry, you want to take it?
Sure, I agree. I'm looking to approve it. I believe it doesn't cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, that the benefit by the applicant is feasible for the applicant to pursue. And, you know, the difficulty, well, I don't remember now, was this self-created? I know they moved the equipment. Originally it was not in.
Yeah, I think it was.
But yeah, so I guess it is self-created, but I agree. I don't think it will do any harm in the neighborhood or change the character of the neighborhood by any means.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Terry. Just to add to my comments, I will also note that there were no letters of objection from any of the neighbors in the file. Ed, you want to take a shot?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with board members that that to be an approval of this application. I would comment that looking at 255-8-50, the 3 questions that ask, will it change the character of the neighborhood? is there a feasible way to eliminate the need for a variance? I think that probably not, that a variance would have been required in most other locations. And I think that was it self-created? I think it is self-created, but I don't think it's an egregious action. And I don't think it's a large ask from them. I did have a question I think we raised at the hearing as to whether or not this very, very substantial screening that exists would be covenanted in the future to protect neighbors from potential noise. I agree with the chair that at this point, it's a little inconvenience to the neighbors and that it's a very substantial screening that exists on the site.
Okay,
About whether or not the board was interested in asking for that screening to be covenanted for the future.
I will comment that my notes indicate that the applicant had no objection to covenanting the screening. So I think that we did ask that and they were in agreement.
thank you, Tim. Tim, you want to continue, please?
Sure, I'm in agreement as well. And the only other comment I would make, just to document the feasibility part of this is that the applicant did provide an estimate to move the pole equipment, which is part of our file in the public record. It was over $15,000 as an estimate, which is not a small amount. And given the small nature of the variance request, combined with the screening that's in place, I think that this all points toward this meeting our standards, and I would approve this as well.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Roy?
I too agree, and I think all points were well covered, so I have nothing else to add.
Okay, thank you, Roy. Council, you all good with that? Council, we good?
Yes, I got everything I need. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on now. We have Daniel Rutkowski, and the lot size and location here is 16,385 square feet at 1854 Montauk Highway, Montauk on the Sea, Section A, lots 5 and 7, map number 2438, Amagansett, tax map number 300-131-2-15.1. Excuse me. Description here is to construct a 361 square foot first story attached garage with 361 square feet, second story addition above, remove 360 square feet of second story decking and replace with 347 square feet of second story decking, remove 759 square feet of first story deck and replace with 790 square feet patio, and construct a new 392 square foot swimming pool, allow an existing shed to remain, and to clear and allow the clearing of beach vegetation to remain on a parcel of land containing beach vegetation and dune land. This is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-4-20 of the East Hampton Town Code is required for this application and any other relief necessary. Zoning district is B, residence, AE flood zone, elevation 10, secret class is type 2. And this, once again, is in my Amagansett district. This one, I am in favor of approving for the following reasons. You may recall my site visit and the photos, and some of you probably were out there as well. The applicants here are trying to clean up their property. They're taking away some decking, as you know. They're adding some, replacing it. They're proposing this garage. They are proposing the pool in the back. The garage, where the garage is being proposed, you'll see is all on the gravel on existing kind of hard pan. The whole site was over cleared. The applicants are planning on doing extensive revegetation here. And I must say the dune land, you may remember I was commenting, the land around the back and the sides that still remains is beautiful. And augmenting that with what you see shaded in green here, I think is only going to help. And the question is, does that offset the pool when, again, the pool is being proposed to be in a previously cleared area as well. So considering that, I am okay with myself personally with approving this application. Vice Chair Deline, you want to comment on this one?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Also, I agree with you that this is worthy of approval. The applicant here also has taken most of all the suggestions that was in the TAM and has revised their application to coincide with what the planning department was looking for. And I applaud that with this application. Also, there was an application and an approval previous with the swimming pool, and I think it was with a pool house.
Yeah, 1997 or something like that.
1970, 97 or
Something like that, yeah.
So they're coming back with a pool, and they're not proposing a pool house. And I think for the most part, they with the modifications they made to coincide with the TAM is laudable, and I'm voting to approve this.
Thanks, Roy, for that. I'll just add two other comments. Again, I appreciate that. I feel that, it's pretty close to the house as well. It's not, the location seems appropriate. And the other thing is as we know, the existing shed is going to be removed, and that obviously allows for all that nice vegetation at the north and eastern side. Terry?
Yeah, I too am looking to approve it for many of the same reasons. There's a large revegetation being done here. They're removing some of the structures that had not been permitted, the existing shed, that's going to be gone, and revegetation. They didn't change the pool size to a smaller size, but as Member Deline said, they did remove a previous approval for a pool house, and they did move the pool closer to the house, to the decking, and toward the western portion near the deck, more so than out toward the perimeter of the property, all at the recommendation of the TAM. So I think it is a good project. The revegetation is very nice. I think it's good mitigation for the pool and the additions that are being done. So I too think that I'm going to approve it.
Thank you, Terry. Ed?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with the board members have already spoken on this issue. I'm looking to approve it for a couple of primary reasons. I think that the effort that was made by the applicant to increase the amount of revegetation, closing the envelope of development is just about as tightly as I think it could be done, I think is also to be commended. I think it's a strong application. I think their letter of April 6th, they agreed that they would replace any lawn areas with sand. They agreed to remove the shed. They talked about agreeing to the additional re-veg in which we see here. And I think that in terms of 255-5-40, it does not only degrade the neighborhood or be out of character. I think it's an improvement on the appearance at this time, and probably, definitely an improvement on the environment. So in agreement with my previous three board members who have decided, I'm looking to approve this application.
Thank you, Ed, and thank you again, Roy, for bringing up, reminding us about the previous approval. I think that's important for the record historically. Tim, if you please.
Sure, I'm in complete agreement. This is an application with no variances, so this is exclusively an NRSP. We are very clearly improving the environmental conditions on this property. So I think this is a very good application, and I agree with the board members and look to approve the application.
Thank you, Tim. Council, you have what you need there?
All set.
Great, thank you. Okay, moving along. Next we have William and Krista Beckert, and the lot size and location here, 15,484 square feet at 21 Chapel Lane, Barnes Landing, Section 1, Block 4, lots 20 through 23, map number 1935. Amagansett, tax map number 300-103-6-29. Description is to construct an approximately 47 square foot for one-story addition to allow an existing 443 square foot deck addition to remain, and to relocate and allow a 100 square foot shed to remain on a parcel of land within jurisdiction of freshwater wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-4-20 of the East Hampton Town Code, and 3 variances are required for this application. Variances of 63.6 feet, 56.3 feet, and 36 feet are required from 255-4-30 of the Town Code to allow the existing decking to remain 36.4 feet, relocated shed to remain 43.7 feet, and to construct the 1-story addition 64 feet from freshwater wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required and any other relief necessary. This is in a B residence zone. The flood zone here is X. The secret class is type 2. And once again, this is in my Amagansett district. Thank you. Is that Tyler there helping us out there, or any one of you?
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's me.
Thanks. Let me just, let's see. Could you zoom in? Could you zoom in, as they say on that, make that a little larger for us, Tyler? A lot of zooming going on these days. Great. That's perfect. Thank you. So board members, again, here on this as well, I am leaning towards approving this. We certainly don't look kindly upon things being built without the proper wetland setback permits and things like that, and building permits. So this was definitely a hardship, was definitely self-created here. Starting off, I think the addition to that house it's actually almost de minimis, 47 square feet. You can see from the survey, they're filling in a little corner of that porch. Other portions of the house are closer to the wetlands than even that corner, I believe. But you see, it's basically just filling in that kind of chipped off piece there. So I have no problem with that portion of it. With the shed, one of the sheds being removed and the other one being moved up to the 43.7 feet away from the wetlands. I'm okay with that as well. I think we talked about moving it forward closer to the street, but as far as kind of the character of the neighborhood and the aesthetics, I think the difference environmentally between moving that shed another 10 feet would be de minimis. So I'm okay with that. And again, with the deck, as you know, I was at the field site visit. If you see on the survey, look to the neighbor adjacent there, where on the bottom right of the screen, where you see that house which says fence 35. No, the other neighbor, yeah, that one there, Tyler. Yeah. Well, the re-veg there, and if you look at the existing vegetation, it comes right up very close to that house. So I was looking for more. Oh, thank you, Tyler. I was looking for some mitigation with some augmented buffer there between the scenic easement and the deck. They have, you can see there's quite a bit of clearing there. And I'm curious what other board members think about that issue. They have, you can see all the clearing now. That shed is going to be moved, so that's great. And they're planning on revegetating that corner. I wondered, Tyler, if you could go back to the survey, please. And I'm just curious how other board members feel if we were compelled to approve this and maybe condition it on a little bit more buffering than they are currently proposed. Although we may have all felt this was appropriate as well. So let's go on. Ed, you want to take a stab at this next? And we
Yes,
can
thank you.
circle around. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree with a good deal of what you've had to say. I think moving the shed, it's not as far as was suggested by the planners. I do agree with your argument that for the character of the neighborhood, pushing it further forward, it was possible, but I think this is a move away from the wetland, so that in itself is a positive.
Mhm.
I think that the addition is just basically enclosing a porch of 47 square feet. And it, as you say, is about as far from the wetlands as any other part of the structure.
Yeah.
I think the deck does require mitigation. And I actually have a problem with this application based on the fact that the applicant did not respond to the request to add some additional re-veg in the area that you've just previously discussed. It would come back closer to the deck. And I would be willing to approve this application if the applicant was amenable to adding what was suggested in and planner Tyler Borsak's suggested re-veg plan. He has it moving closer to the deck, a larger square area. There was a letter of, I think it's, I have it here, that the 21st of, a letter from the, I may have the wrong date, but a letter from the client saying that it would be expensive to do this to them. Nonetheless, that expense aside, I think it's a responsibility for us to try to do as best we can to mitigate this deck that is incorrectly installed, and protection to the wetlands. Anytime we have an opportunity to do that, I would like to see us move forward with it. So following up on your comment and how the rest of the board feels, I agree with what you have to say about the basic move in there, but I would only be comfortable with this if we can get the client or the applicant to agree to the additional re-veg that was suggested by Tyler Borsak.
Thank you, Ed. Tyler, may I, may I ask you, do you have your, could you pull up your sketch, Tyler, do you have that? And the other thing, actually, Tyler, before you do, can you just kind of zoom in on the deck separation? Does that say 13.5 feet to the scenic easement?
That's 13.
Oh, wait, I might have a survey right here on my desk.
It's 13.6.
Oh, okay, good. I beg your pardon, I have the survey here. So, board members, yeah, I would think if it is 13.6, before we move on, just if I may add this comment, I would like to see taking that scenic easement line, the continuous line of the scenic easement, and adding 10 feet of revegetation, and that would still leave 3.5 feet where they could always get around that side of the house to get a path to get through there. But that's kind of where personally where I'm leaning. And council, I believe if we will go through the board, but if we did agree, council, that we could approve this with a condition that be augmented 10 feet further in. Do you agree with that, council, as a condition?
You can condition it that needs to be revegetated in order, and you can do it on the entire approval or simply on the retention.
On the deck.
You can do either way.
Right. I'm sorry, I interrupt you. On the retention of the deck, was you were going to say?
You can condition it either for the entire approval in order to retain any of these the three variances. That it be conditioned that be revegetated, or you can just condition it on retaining the deck, that they have to do that, so that they would still have the alternative of, if they chose that revegetation was not agreeable, then they'd have to remove the deck, but they could keep the shed and the addition.
Right.
So you
I
could
would
do it
say,
either way.
Yeah, thank you. Board members, and I'll stop. I'll let you all comment, but I would think it would make sense to condition on the whole application, because obviously the shed, with regard to the variances to the wetland and the addition, it's all tied in. It's all one application. So that would be my leaning on that. Tim, you want to take a pass at this, if you please?
Sure. So this is a bit of a conundrum as well, because we have some conflicting things going on. We have a small home with a very modest addition, but we also have a very wet property. Those of us that have visited this area know Chapel Lane is very wet, and certainly it's clear, just looking at the survey, where we need to protect. As I've listened to this conversation, Chair, I'm very comfortable with the position that we've staked out here. The request for additional vegetation, I think, is a fair mitigation request in return for approving some pretty substantial variances. I don't know if we've focused on that quite enough yet, but some of these variances are really quite substantial. And I too would agree that I think we have to condition it on the approval of the entire application. So that's where I would be. I'm in agreement with what has been discussed to this point.
Thank you, Tim. Tyler, would you mind pulling back your sketch up again that
Sure.
you had up on the screen? And thanks for that, Tim. Before we move on, I just wanted to say, board members, my only comment is I know you think about a family and grandchildren and having a lawn and things like that. I would also say this, that I would also be comfortable with Tyler as an option would be with Tyler's sketch here that still leaves kind of the applicants or the family, wherever is going to be living there, kind of a yard, a little bit of a yard space here. So I would just throw it out there that I'm also as fine with the planning department's proposal here. Roy?
Yep. Thank you. Am I muted? So yeah, just a couple of additional points to bring up. This house was purchased in 2008. There was a C of O in 2008. It sounds like it's probably an updated C of O. The location where the deck, where the shed is being located back to that position in the 2008 C of O. So I think that's further justification for the location of the shed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with the small addition. I think the problematic, as other board members have all agree, that the deck addition is a problematic point. And if this was to come to us as a board for a proposed deck, I think that we would have a lot to say about it. I think we would have a lot to say about how the materials used on the deck, no treated lumbers and stuff like that, because of the quality of the wetlands and the amount of wetlands around this property. So I think with that, I think the increased re-veg area is justifiable as a mitigation for the deck. During the hearing, Mr. Chairman brought up the fact that maybe it's acceptable to, in this additional green area that Tyler's showing us, is maybe a no-mow zone, so it's not a cost burden to the owner. At that point during the hearing, the original triangle that was proposed by the applicant, I think we should still require it to be properly re-vegged, but this additional area, I think there was a discussion to have it as a no-mow zone, and we can discuss that. I would be favorable for that too.
Thank you, Roy, and thanks for reminding us about that too. Because if we can make that work and have a proper, even if it's a temporary fencing or something like that to keep lawnmowers away, we can talk about that. I'd be fine with that as well. Let's see. Let's see. We've done Terry. I apologize, guys. Has everyone spoken? Ed, let's see.
No, I have to go.
Oh, you have not, Terry. I bet.
No, I have not.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I don't like that they did the deck on their own.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the largest variance. So it's 63.6 feet. And I'm torn. I definitely agree with my colleagues on the revegetation and Tyler's drawing, that it be that much revegetation. I would have liked the shed moved to the other location, but okay, they want to see something nice out their kitchen. I'll live with that, back to where it originally was. But I think that the revegetation is absolutely necessary for me to approve this project. And it is disturbing, but still large variances that ordinarily, as Roy said, if they had come to us for this deck addition, I'm wondering if we should also state that deck addition cannot be built upon or enclosed.
I think that's a fair point to make myself.
Since it is so close to the wetlands.
Yeah, and so that this down the road, it doesn't get screened in or doesn't become, I wouldn't say that habitable space word, but okay, let's see. So how do we, if I could just kind of poll you all, do we feel, it seems like this, tell me if this is correct, if you are all on board with this, as I believe Roy just mentioned, the dark shaded green in their sketch that they were, where it says, well, that little triangle there, I would like to see, and asking if you all would agree, that should be properly revegetated. I'm okay in Tyler's planning department sketch. Yeah, that triangle there. Thank you, Tyler. And if you could go back to yours now, Tyler, please. I'm good with this here being a no-mow zone because, as I said, I think naturally things are going to come back in and let the native plants come back and grow as they may, as long as we have a proper something, a fence or some low shrubs or something, a line of something that they can work out with the planning department to keep lawnmowers out. I'd be fine with that. And board, does that sound good to you all or any
I
other?
thought Tyler had a concern about just making it a no-mow, that could allow some invasives in.
Yeah,
Heard that correctly.
I guess we really can't.
I have to say, Mr. Chair, I think given the substantial variances that we're talking
Yeah.
about here,
Mhm.
I think it argues that we need to protect the wetlands. And my own opinion would be, I think we need to have this area revegetated.
Yeah. Well, I understand that. I completely. And again, thank you for bringing up the severity of these variances, Tim, because you're right. And you all, as you all have mentioned, if someone came in with a shed for 43 feet away when it could easily be further, with an addition when it could easily happen on another portion of the house, and with a deck that could easily be smaller, I agree with you. And again, as I'm trying to be amenable with this no mow, it becomes a tough thing to kind of police. And considering your comments of the severity of these, and the fact that the deck was built without a building permit. So I would also be fine conditioning that area be a revegetation that they work out with the planning department.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I have to agree with Member Brenneman. I'd be less comfortable in the no-mow. I understand that it's a proper use at certain times. I think, as you say, monitoring that no-mow zone is something that we're not in a position to do very correctly. And I think that Vice Chair's point about if they were to come to us with this deck, how would we have ruled and how would we have looked at it? And I think that Member Brenneman's point about how it's a big ask in terms of what we're getting for variances, that all lends to me to think that I'd like to see this area that's now highlighted on the survey we're looking at be properly revegetated. And I think in conference with, we're meeting with our planners, our environmental planners, that we can have a very specific planning plan approved by them so that we don't see this done in less than a really efficient manner. So my approval is really going to be based on that, that this area gets treated properly and gets revegetated properly.
No, I'm agreeing with you as well on that. Thank you, Ed.
I also
Tyler was very
I also
strong
go
on
along
that.
with that, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
Tyler was very strong on that increased buffer.
You're right.
Where those waters go to, ultimately, fresh pond.
Yeah, thanks for reminding us that. Okay, and thank you, Roy. I know, so it sounds like we're all on the same page, Council? Does that work for you?
I want to make sure because we have three different areas. There's the one area that's the green stripe that's printed on here.
Yeah.
There's, in addition, this that was in that triangle from 311. 2000 and then we have Tyler's. So it's all those areas need to be re-vegged.
Yes, and if I can just mention that what's nice about Tyler's proposal, it makes it very easy, is that he starts it with a point that's already on the survey, so the surveyors can take that point and go. I imagine he drew it parallel to that south 58 degrees, 37 minutes, whatever, 0-second line in the back. So I think it's a very clear square footage that can be transferred directly onto a survey. Go ahead, Council.
No, I just want to make sure it was all three areas because they're on three separate pieces of paper, or two separate pieces of paper. So combining all three areas, they would be conditioned on that being revegetated.
And what about the not building on top of that deck addition? That
I need to hear whether or not that's a consent.
Oh, thank you. I'm okay with that myself. Terry?
I'm okay with.
I am as well.
Same here.
Okay. Thank you, Terry, for that. Thanks for that suggestion. That's a good one. Okay, so does that work, Council?
Yep, I have what I need. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, we'll move on. Next week.
Sure. For the, I think you can just probably reference the planning department sketch as far as re-veg is concerned. The other areas are all within this area.
They
So
are?
I think if you
Now
just,
there's, on the other sketch, there's, see, this
On-
has
on
a
this one-
clear, that area.
yeah, that up there is already has vegetation in it.
Oh, it
That's
does.
already been
Definitely.
vegetated.
Yeah. So
Okay.
this
Oh,
one goes
so,
along the clearing.
I
edge.
got
think
you.
if you just
Okay.
reference this one, that should be fine.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the original stripe one is scenic easement.
Right.
Right.
And then revegetating in addition to the scenic easement, this, gotcha.
And Tyler, we can trust,
Thank you, Tyler.
sorry, Council. So Tyler, we can trust again that along that edge, their plan will incorporate something that impedes lawn mowing, correct? I'm sure when you,
Yeah, we can do some sort of make sure the woody vegetation's along the edge there.
Yeah.
That should be easy enough.
yep. Okay, thanks for your work on this, Tyler. Okay, thank you, board members. We'll move on next to Kathleen Langen. Lot size and location, 10,000 square feet at 1843 Montauk Highway in Amagansett. Tax map number 300-131-1-1. Description is to demolish the current improvements and construct a two-story, 2420 square foot residence, 60 square foot of covered porch, 600 square feet of decking, sanitary system, 140 square feet of shed and driveway within the town's jurisdiction of freshwater wetlands. The relief sought here is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-4-20, variances from 255-4-30, minimum wetland setbacks of the town code and any other relief necessary. The following variance is requested. 1, a 9.5 variance is required to install the sanitary system 14.5 feet from the wetlands where 150-foot setback is required. This is in a B residence zone. The flood zone is AE flood zone elevation 10, and the secret class is type 2. And again, this once again is in my Amagansett district. We all know this, I'm sure we recall this application, how it had come back in before us. And then it was resubmitted with a smaller plan. Tyler, do we have a re-veg plan on this? Can you remind me?
Mike didn't put one in the file, but I can look for one. Give me a moment.
My, if it helps, my notes say that there's not to be a lawn, and that they're offering beach vegetation between the house and the clearing lines.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That was my memory as well. I believe that they were just going to fill it all in with beach grass, correct?
Yeah, that they don't intend to have
Board
any.
members
lawn, that
agree.
they're going to-
Right.
Yeah, and that's
Right.
including the part that they usurped on Shawnee Street.
Including that. Yeah, oh, yes, that's
Including
right.
that Paper Road.
Yeah, exactly. They were going to fill that in, Terry, right. So as far as the variance for the wetland, for the sanitary system, I'm fine with that variance. And I'm also fine approving this application as resubmitted. I think they listened to the board and what they're doing. They're not looking for variances, and they will be doing the revegetation. We've got the new IA system, of course, which is, all of those are great in this area, in any area. So I'm curious as to your comments, board members. Ed, you want to take a
Thank you,
pass at
Mr.
this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that the application represents an improvement on what's on the site now, primarily because the septic system will be located about as far from wetlands as it can be on this lot. It's a new IA system. I think all is in ways in favor of the applicant. In visiting the site, there was concern about parking area extending on into the paper road. And as it's already been mentioned, the applicant is willing to retrench from there and to revegetate that area. When you're looking out in that area of the paper road here and you're looking out in all directions, you are in a fairly sensitive beach environment or dune environment. And you can see that the damage done there, if corrected, would be a positive as well. That Shawnee Lane area, being revegetated is definitely a positive here. I think that, as you say, the variance is not a great one for what's being asked. I think they've reduced the overall size of the building by 203 feet, which is a positive. The revegetation to the north, it was just been described by you that we're going to have beach grass and that they're willing to come back in its entirety is also one. there was a letter of support from the immediate next door neighbor. And when you're there, that neighbor is very close. And so
Yeah.
that weighed positively as well. I think in general, it's an improvement in terms of the character of the neighborhood. There was the main question that came up was how we treated the distance from the wetlands, knowing that there is a man-made bulkhead along the railroad tracks between the wetlands and the property. That the DEC letter that was attached to the application said that the bulkhead eliminated their concern for runoffs into the wetlands. It was raised by our planners, though, that this area we still have to worry about what might happen in terms of groundwater seepage from a system. I think that the bulkhead as it exists, meaning the railway bed, is fairly impressive in the sense that whatever goes on this lot will have not a great effect on the wetlands beyond. However, there is an existing habitat around to be preserved, and I think that this application does address that. So I'm looking to agree with you and approve the application based on the fact that the improvements that the applicant has been willing to make and the moving back in off of the paper road and showing some respect for the additional vegetation that now exists, all favor it, all weigh in favor of the applicant. So I'm going to approve this application.
Great. Thank you for those comments, Ed. And yes, and thank you for bringing up the property along the Shawnee Street there. And it is incredible. It's incredible dune land right over there. And I agree with you that this will certainly be helpful. Tim?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm in agreement with my fellow board members. I too agree that this is an improvement. I went back and read our denial in 2020. And just as a reminder, that was an NRSP and 5 variances, and it included a variance that would exceed the max gross floor area, which was 2,600 square feet. So that application was very different than what we have in front of us today. According to the TAM, while we have this noticed as an NRSP and 1 variance for the septic system, the TAM indicates that that variance probably isn't even necessary. So this is really just an NRSP. And I think the applicant has positioned the improvements here as far away as they possibly can. As we've already noted, there's some pretty severe restrictions on this given the distance to wetlands. So in this case, I think we have a far superior application than we had previously. I'm comfortable that we've done, I think, our job as a zoning board on this, and I think this now meets our standards.
Thank you, Tim. And I appreciate you bringing up those variances that were eliminated in the second submission. Thank you, Tim. Terry?
Yeah, I agree with my fellow board members, and Tim brought up the reductions in clearing and the overall GFA. I think they did listen to the denial. The only concern I have is a little parking area on the west side there. And I guess, I know they're going to correct the clearing that's gone into that paper road and revegetate all the way up to the clearing line, I believe, on going toward the house. A little concerned about that parking area, though. I guess I'd like to stipulate that they maintain that revegetation in good stead or good condition.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Other than that, I am, am looking to approve it also. I think they cleaned it up nicely.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Roy?
I agree, Mr. Chairman, with very little to add. I just want to say that this is application coming back to us is a successful conclusion to this application.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, board members. Council, do you have what you need there?
I have what I need. What I will do is make sure that we include a CNR that not only to revegetate, but to maintain that revegetation.
Yeah, I like that idea. Thank you. Okay, thank you, board members. We'll move on now. Next, we have Virginia Spinelli. Lot size and location, 20,000 square feet at 45 Ditch Plains Road, Seaside Shores, Block 604, Lot 22, map number 1518, Montauk, tax map number 300-32-5-13. Description: to demolish the existing residence and associated structures and construct a new 1,553 square foot two-story residence with approximately 700 square feet of decking, porches and walkways, and a new sanitary system within jurisdiction and setbacks of freshwater wetlands and outside of the town's pyramid regulations. The relief sought: a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-4-20 of the East Hampton Town Code, and 5 variances are required for this application. 2 variances of 58.4 feet and 63.3 feet are required from 255-4-30 of the Town Code to construct the proposed residence 41.6 feet and decking 36.7 feet from freshwater wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required. 1 variance of 47.7 feet from 255-4-30 of the Town Code is required to construct the new sanitary system 102.3 feet from the freshwater wetlands where a 150-foot setback is required. 2 variances of 4 feet from 255-11-72D of the Town Code are required to allow the proposed residence to exceed the pyramid line by 4 feet along the northern and southern side yard lot lines, and any other relief necessary. This is in a B residence zone. The flood zone here is AE flood zone elevation 13. Secret class is type 2. And Terry, I believe, Board Member Berger, this was in your application?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a complete redevelopment. The survey that we had at the time of the hearing was received September, I think it's 28, it's kind of smudged, 2020, revised August 26, 2020. And subsequent to the hearing, we did get an updated survey, which is the one that's on the screen right now, received March 23rd, 2021, and updated on March 17th, 2021. Okay, it's a complete redevelopment. It sounds like a lot of variances. However, I think overall this is a good project. This is in the Ditch Plains area of Montauk, and you can just see from that survey that this is a very narrow lot. It's substandard size in width and very long. Actually, about half of the lot itself is wetlands. I think this application is a good application that was put in for this redevelopment. The wetlands in this area are part of Watercourse 7 in Ditch Plains and Montauk, and it's a critical watercourse to all of the drainage. The watercourse runs right through this applicant's property, and the property is adjacent to Sepp's Cottages property on the north side, and another neighbor on the south side of Ditch Plains Road. Okay, the variances are 58.4 feet for the residence and 63.3 feet for the decking. You could see on the survey that the new house is actually getting closer to the wetlands than the existing house today. However, that was due to the location of the OWTS. The septic system today is located on the deck there that's going to be, demolished, but that's the septic systems in that area. So the new IA system will be in the front of the house and moving it 102 feet away from the wetlands. So that's an improvement, a big improvement, and justifies, according to the planners and to us, justifies the variance for the residence and the decking on the new house. That leaves the 2 4-foot pyramid variances on the okay, for the north, both the north and the south side. The house today is a little bit more, the setback meets the setbacks. This house qualifies for the 4/5 rule because of the narrowness of it, and the new house will be exactly 8 feet on the north and the south side. And the pyramid is almost unavoidable. And actually, the planner, Tyler, was pretty strong on the pyramid that this happens a lot in this area of town because of the narrowness of many of the lots, and also making it 2 stories. Plus, it's going to be on pilings to become FEMA compliant. Makes it, reduces the footprint as much as possible that could be done. So overall, this is a good project. Sanitary moving to the front. I believe it's 3 bedrooms now, the house, and it's going to remain 3, I believe. The wetlands, the applicant has agreed to the scenic easement that is up there, and that water course, they're going to have the water course, and the edging of the house is going to be you take it differently. Yeah, the scenic easement runs from east to west, and in this area where you see the scenic easement in the squares, and then additionally, the applicant has agreed to a 17-foot revegetated buffer from the scenic easement toward the house, is on that kind of next line. I'm having trouble seeing the limits of clearing, and then it'll leave the house 15 feet from the buffer area, the re-veg area, and the scenic easement. This was the updated survey that was provided by the agent. We had requested a construction protocol from the applicant due to there was a big discussion about the pilings and the construction protocol for this project. And we did get a letter with the updated survey saying that at the time for the piling protocol, everybody didn't think they could get it in time for us to make this decision. So if we approve this project, they want us to condition on that, and they will provide it. One of the big things brought up at that by member Johan was the concern about the vibrations and damage that could be done to the houses and steps cottages so close to the applicant's property, that there be some notification giving them a heads up and a warning as to repercussions that might happen as a result of that. I think that's that what I have. Oh, there was a footbridge that was in disrepair, and they still have it on this updated survey. The applicant did call in the night of the hearing and say that the footbridge is not going to be replaced. So that's the only item that would have to come off this survey. Basically, the lot coverage is going down on this property from 1,185 to 948. The total lot coverage is going up slightly, about 170 feet. And the clearing is actually going down from 7,616 feet to 5,576. So I think this is a good redevelopment project overall, and I'm looking to approve it.
Okay, thanks for those thorough comments. Terry?
Can I just ask
Sure.
Terry to clarify? Terry, with the updating the survey with the footbridge, is it okay if do you want that footbridge removed before they get their building permit, or is it okay that they have that removed and update the survey before the C of O?
Before the C of O.
Okay.
The footbridge is already gone. It was just a bunch of wood laying there right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll just make sure it's the condition that they.
Yeah, for the C of O.
Perfect. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Nancy Lynn. Ed, you want to take a pass at this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm in agreement with much of what was mentioned already by Member Berger. I do think it's a redevelopment that is been carefully planned, centering the house as best it can between the property lines. These are difficult lots throughout Ditch Plains area for a variety of reasons. This one because it is so particularly narrow, but it's also backed into an important waterway, and there is actually a canal that you have to cross. That's what the footbridge is about. You see water actively going as part of the this whole watershed area, and I think that gives us reason to want to be sure that most care can be taken. I think that the applicant has agreed, as was described by Terry, to re-veg and to increase the amount of area that can be protected with revegetation. I think that's a positive. I think the new sanitary system moving where it has is necessitated at least, or at least brings up the topic of these the building moving closer to the wetlands and increasing a variance that might have been needed from the old location. But that's a net positive because the septic is now moved as far away from the wetlands as is possible on this site. I think that the question about the construction protocol, I'm glad that was brought up by Terry. When you stand on this site, the structure on Sepp's Cottage's side is within arm's length of the property. It's extremely close. And so driving 15 pilings could be an issue for anyone in the area. So I appreciate the idea that we would include in the construction protocol adequate notification to all immediate neighbors that this is going to take place. I also think that the pyramid variances that are asked for, they're unavoidable in one way, in that locating it as you do on these very narrow properties is little. You could think about eliminating a second floor in this case, but the second floor structure as planned, as drawn, is not out of character with the neighborhood. And I don't think it's a big ask for us to approve that in its location. I'm quite sure, standing there, did not do the math, that the structure to the south would not pass pyramid restrictions. It's close to the property line and also a two-story structure. So I think that overall this has been a good application. I think that they've taken into consideration as much as they can. The agreement to re-veg was important in my mind. And there was a note in the by the planner that, and we talked about this a little bit, about this clearing the lot and what would happen with additional fill. Fill should be handled sensitively here. And since a wick system in the septic system, there'll be a wick applied where a fairly deep excavation will be required to be filled with sand for the sand wick. That material has to be carefully placed on the property so as not to damage, the adjacent properties. So I think some concern is there. It was mentioned by board member or vice chair rather, Delene, that any material that might be excess might go back underneath the structure because it is going to be on pilings and some fill will be needed. If it's adequate fill that can go in there, perhaps, but if not, it'll have to be carefully controlled during construction. That's all part of construction protocols. So in agreement with Member Berger, and in a very, very sensitive lot, as many of them are in ditch. And nonetheless, I'm in favor of approving this application. I think it's been done about as well as you can on such a very, very restricted lot. So I'm in favor of the application.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Ed, Roy?
I say bravo to my two board members. I mean, well done. I think this project will be an environmental improvement on this property, and I too will vote to approve it.
Thank you, Roy. Tim?
I'm in complete agreement and also concur with acknowledging members Berger and Johann's very detailed reports and assessments. I think they do a great job of really zeroing in on the properties out in their areas. And I really don't have anything to add. I am in complete agreement.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. I echo your comments. And again, thank you, Terry and Ed, for really analyzing that so well for all of us. I'm in complete agreement with everything you said and for all the exact reasons that you wish to approve this, and I do as well. Council?
I'm all set. Thank you.
You all set? Great. Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks, board members. Okay, we will move on next to, we have interpretations. Let's see, we'll move on to other decisions. We'll start off, and I'll ask council maybe just to walk us through the next two steps. We have Nigel Curtis under other decisions, and as well we have it under resolutions, and council can explain that to us. I will just read in that the first decision is regarding Nigel Curtis at 393 Cranberry Hole Road in Amagansett, tax map number 300-128-01-28.2. And council, would you mind just reminding us about what we're doing here this evening?
We're actually doing two parts, and it's only because with secret there are some different stages. This first stage is the form that I sent to you that was filled in with regards to the notice of completion of the draft EIS. It's released with deficiencies, and that's you all got to see that, and the deficiencies were noted on here. If the board is fine with that, it will actually is incorporated in the resolution, that if it makes it easier, we can just actually kind of segue into that, which was the resolution to provide notice of the completion of the draft EIS and setting of a public hearing on it. That you also was circulated for you to look at. A lot of it just tells the procedural history. It does again note the deficiencies, so they are identical as to what's in the form as well as what's there, and directs our good secretary to do what is statutorily required as far as notice and filing and all that other good stuff, and then also sets this matter for public hearing within the statutory window, which is on July 27th, 2021, with the posting of the transcript no later than August 10th, 2021. And public comments not only can be at the hearing, but can be accepted through end of business on August 20th, 2021. And then we then have to, we provide notice and everything else. That gets us within the statutory deadlines that we need to do. And after that hearing, then the next stage would be the board will be drafting the final EIS after all the information, all the comments are made, after the public hearing and the like. So looking to make sure that there are no need for any changes to the form that was circulated. And if that's okay, then if you don't mind me jumping ahead in the meeting agenda, also adopting the resolution as written with regards to Nigel Curtis for the notice of completion of the draft EIS and setting of the public hearing.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Just to clarify that for us and for the public especially. And thank you very much for all your work on this, Nancy Lynn. I thought your work product was great on this notice of completion of the draft EIS. And even though we do have all of these deficiencies, I feel very comfortable and confident that we can pick all of that up in the public hearing and in the final EIS. So this being in my Amagansett district, I'm fine with this. Any comments, board members, on this? If not, I will go ahead and make a motion in the matter of the application of Nigel Curtis at tax map number 300-128-1-28.2 with regard to the resolution to provide notice of a completion of draft EIS and setting of public hearing. I make a motion to approve this resolution as written.
Second.
I concur.
I concur.
Okay, thank you, board members, and thank you, Nancy Lynn again. Okay, next we'll move on to James Shannock at 301 Marine Boulevard in Amagansett, tax map number 300-177-1-42. And this is, let's see, I do not have that one in front.
I mean, it's not a determination. This
Oh,
is
I'm sorry.
a motion.
It's a motion from Lori Wilshire. Is that?
The
Go ahead,
record
Counsel.
the record was due to close today. And we received a request to keep the written record open for another 2 weeks after in order to allow for I think it's another 2 weeks. Kyle would know.
Yeah, I think it was another 2 weeks.
Another 2 weeks,
Yeah.
another 2 weeks to keep the
Yeah.
record open.
2
for
weeks,
another
correct.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that there's a survey that they're trying to submit that wasn't ready yet, so they asked for a little bit more time.
Right, thank you.
That's,
I-
it just would be to keep the written record open for
For-
another.
Yes, and this, thank you, Nancy Lynn, this being in my Amagansett district as well, I am fine with letting this, with agreeing to the request. Comments, board members?
Do you have to make a motion?
I guess I do. Thank you, Terry. With regard to James Shannock at 301 Marine Boulevard, Amagansett, tax map number 300-177-1-42, I make a motion that the written record be left open an additional 2 weeks from this evening.
Second.
Concur.
I'll concur.
And I concur.
Okay, thank you. And next we have De Niro at 242 Old Montauk Highway in Montauk, tax map number 300-87-3-6. And I'm going to pass this on to Board Member Berger. Terry, if you want to pick it up from here, please.
Give me the tax map number again, because I don't
Sure.
have it's on the
You
agenda.
ready? Here we go. 300-87-3-6.
Okay, so De Niro. What happened is, we had a hearing, we had a second hearing, as you all know. It turns out one of the items for the modification was the pool equipment shed that was on the property. I just lost my screen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So was for the pool equipment on the property. It was not in the original determination. It had not been noticed for a variance at that time because nothing was going to be done with it. As it turns out, it got shifted 90 degrees or so, and that created a situation where the modification requested variance. But since it hadn't been noticed in the original hearing, we have to have another hearing just to address that one item. So I'm going to make a motion on De Niro, Montauk Highway, Old Montauk Highway. What's the address, 232?
242.
242, yeah.
242 Old Montauk Highway in Montauk, tax map 300-87-3-6. Make a motion to have another hearing. So that's
So we're reopening both the, we're reopening the record.
reopen the
Listing it
record.
for a new hearing. So the public hearing, it will be a continuation. We're not going to start over. It's reopening the public hearing with a new notice with the variance.
Okay.
And then obviously the record would be reopened as well, because that would be closing today as well. So
Okay.
just,
So
it's
I
all of
accept
that. being reopened.
motion to reopen the public hearing for continuation and reopen or leave the public record open.
Yep.
For the hearing.
Perfect.
I second.
Oh,
I concur.
I'll concur.
And I concur as well. Okay, thank you, Terry. Okay, next we have the draft minutes of March, pardon me, of May 25th, 2021. I have reviewed these. And I wonder if, is there a motion there, please, to approve the draft minutes of May 25th?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes for the Zoning Board of Appeals dated May 26, 2021, as written.
I'll second it.
I concur.
Concur. 25th.
Thank you. And I concur. Thank you, Tim. Okay, council, anything else on your end? Oh, yes, we have resolutions. I
We have
keep
two
forgetting.
resolutions I'd like to.
I keep forgetting page 5 of our agenda. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. We have 1, 2, 3.
No, just two. We did the Nigel Curtis.
Oh, yes, we did. Thank you, of course. Okay, so we'll start off here with Jordan Daniel at 22, pardon me, 22 Abrams Path in Springs, tax map number 300-120-3-9. I have this in front of me, Roy, if you need anything, but otherwise, Roy, I'll let you take this over, if you please.
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the application, the resolution of Jordan Daniel, 22 Abraham's Path in Spring, Suffolk, tax map number 300-123-9. 2020-9.
I'll second.
As written, right?
As written,
That's
sorry. as written.
Determination, right?
Concur.
I'll concur.
And I concur as well. Okay, next we have the East Hampton Gerard Point LLC at 22 Shore Road in Amagansett, tax map number 300-131-8-7. I have that in front of me as well, and this is regarding constructing a new residence. And on this determination, we had board members Berger, Brenneman, and Johan concurred with denying the application, denying the work, and I dissented, and Roy Deline, Vice Chair, dissented as well. So I would like to make a motion to approve the determination as written for East Hampton Gerard Point LLC, tax map number 300-131-8-7 at 22 Shore Road in Amagansett.
I'll second.
I'll concur.
I concur.
I'll concur.
Terry, I will give the second to Ed.
Okay.
Tie goes to Montauk or something like that.
We're supposed to be.
Okay, let's see. We've taken care of Nigel Curtis. Council, anything else on your end?
I do not have anything else. We have another work session next week. And then we should be, yeah, I know, fun. And then we should be kind of caught up. Listen, it's not like, you guys, I have to draft all these after this. So
Yeah, right. Yeah.
a lot on my plate, but we will get them all going and out to you, and then just check, because we have a full agenda. Make sure you guys are ready, as you always are, and we'll do that work session and move forward.
Well, Nancy Lynn, thanks for all your work. Good luck with all of these too. Boy, you're going to be busy, and we'll keep you busy next week too.
Yes.
Okay, if we don't have anything else, I think we need a motion from our vice chair, right?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, I then make a motion to close a work session of the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals for Tuesday, June 8th at 8:17 p.m.
I'll second.
I'll concur.
I'll concur.
I was going to say, don't rush to second too quickly. I concur as well. Thank you, LTV, Kyle, Planning Department, Nancy Lynn, board members. Thanks a lot. We got through it all. Have a good evening.